All right, now we are going to transition to our conversation of the day, where we're going to be joined by Hassan Ng'ombe, who is a resilience officer from AGRA. We're going to be talking about the different ways of making sure that at least you as a farmer and also an agriculturalist in the country make sure that at least you come up with ways of cushioning yourself when it comes to natural disasters, drought, floods, and such natural disasters and issues that affect Kenya, especially when it comes to this periods and seasons in the country when we have drought and also when we usually have long rains. Thank you so much, Hassan, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and now, first of all, before we even get to the major issues that AGRA is trying to correct and also trying to teach people on, let us look at the country in terms of how we are prepared when it comes to natural disasters, especially droughts, because they affect production greatly. And when you look at agriculture, which is one of the major contributors of the GDP, agriculture really plays a big role. So are we really at a place where you can say we are prepared when it comes to disasters like drought?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Preparedness, really, I think Kenya is, to some extent, prepared to deal with effects of climate change, such as droughts. The biggest challenge is that most of the issues that we deal with in climate change are really unpredictable. So it's a moving target. So for us to say we are 100% prepared would be something that, we would say we need to work on that a little bit more. We're not yet there.
Okay. And when you look at the agriculture sector, I believe there are some gaps that need to be filled. And with the new government that is just months in, by leading the country and just focusing on agriculture, what do you think are some of the gaps that they need to have even just done and filled up to now?
The agriculture sector really plays a very historical process or role within Kenya's development. There's a lot of things that we need to do as Africa and Kenya in particular to get to where we want to be to feed ourselves in a sustainable manner. Currently, I would say from your question, I think the government and the county governments per se need to focus on increasing productivity, which is currently not at the level where we can actually get to. An example is that a yield of maize within 1 hectare is currently around 1.4, maybe maximum 2 million hectares, 2 million tons per hectare, with the possibility of us getting to 8 or 7 if we're using the right technology and practices. So there's a lot that we can still do with regard to providing technologies to farmers, access to markets, developing skills of farmers and the youth, and promoting private sector investment within the agriculture sector.
All right, and now let's get into what you exactly do. For example, you are in this space, in the agriculture space, and what are some of the ways that you are planning to at least change the narrative of agriculture in Kenya so that we don't have the same phenomenon every year? We're trying to resolve drought, we're trying to make sure that food is secure. So what are you doing in terms of when it comes to now trying to change the conversation around agriculture?
I think one of the key things that AGRA and its partners are doing in this area is to drive scale into the technologies that we've been pushing in the sector to improve productivity, to have food safety, to have equity within the agriculture sector, an agriculture sector that provides employment, brings women and youth onto the table. Some of the things that we're doing, we're prioritizing developing more predictable markets that provide predictable pricing to farmers, because we realize that the private sector and financing from the private sector towards smallholder agriculture is one of the key drivers towards scale. Another key area that we are really focusing on is building the capacities of government to develop and implement policies that have long-term visions within agriculture for us to be able to feed the country in a sustainable manner.
And now let's focus on the farmer. A Kenyan farmer, does a farmer really have the right information when it comes to how they need to take care of their produce, especially when these seasons come and go? What is the approach, especially when it comes to even trying to pass the information to the farmer? So first of all, let us start with, does the farmer even have the information that they need to have?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where one of the largest gaps is towards providing information, technologies, the right price to the farmer, is that link between where the information lies and how it gets to the farmer.
Yes.
A key challenge we've seen in most African countries, and Kenya in particular, is a gap within the extension system. This has been a key medium through which information is passed from markets, from technology, those who have the technology, onto building skills to the farmers. So farmers do have limited amount of information, but I think we can do better by strengthening this bridge between where the information lies and where it is needed most, which is with the farmers. We're a little bit lucky in Kenya with the access of mobile technologies, that farmers are now, having more access of information through their mobile phones, through whatever gadgets they are using to connect to the web. But this is not enough. With farmers' levels of capacity, there's a little bit more of personal interaction that needs to happen before we get to a stage where a farmer can access automatically and use the information from their mobile phones.
You've mentioned about extension services. Is it time that Kenya does away with extension officers? Because this has been a major cry, and I believe a better part of last year there were issues when it came to farmers saying they've never actually seen an extension officer for almost 5 years. So do you think it's time to do that? And if we are not doing away with that, what needs to be done in order for at least these extension officers in the counties can get to the farmers?
I think we shouldn't do away with extension. What we need to do is be innovative around the current challenges that we have in extension. We do know that with time, the extension system that was designed after the post-independence, with the population that we had and the system we had, is not responsive to the current challenges. What we need to do is look at what we have more going to assist in the extension system. And I'll give you an example of integrating what we are trying out in Agra. We've been working with the county governments in Kenya to build a community private-public partnership model in extension, where the communities themselves, the farmers themselves, select lead farmers, those that have the knowledge, and we train them. We work with county governments to train them on how to deliver extension to fellow farmers, connect them to national and county government extension officers who have the cutting-edge knowledge in terms of practice. They've been trained. So we use these connections from the community and private sector to further the extension systems to the farmer. This allows more numbers of farmers to be reached. It allows for these technologies that we are pushing for within climate smart agriculture to actually reach where they're supposed to be. So I wouldn't say we do away with it. I think we really just need to modify. We need to innovate around the limitations that we have.
All right, very well said. Now let's also look at the extension officer trying to let us look at the farmer also, and trying to think, okay, the farmer who is depending on someone to reach, someone just to make sure that their products move to the market, and maybe they don't have the right knowledge, they don't have the right medium of making sure that they communicate with the market. So going forward, what are you looking at in terms of trying to protect the farmer against such risks of dealing with middlemen or the brokers who maybe don't really make sure that the products reach to the market?
Well, I mean, first of all, you've just spoken about something that's really key, the issue of middlemen and brokers.
Yes.
I think the agriculture pie is big enough for all the players including the middlemen, because everyone has a role to play. There are times when some of the contract arrangements take long to pay the farmer, and the farmer needs cash immediately. There comes the role of a broker or a middleman who actually has cash. Obviously, to be at a different price, but there's need for the rural economies or the farming economies to be able to still function within the different modalities which farmers access markets. But in terms of protecting the farmer, I think there's need for us to build more transparent and effective, efficient market information systems for price, where the market actually is, how much produce has been produced. This gives the farmer awareness of what they can gain, where the markets are, and also the flexibility to choose where they can sell their products. So there's quite a lot we can do through government regulation, investments in infrastructure that is both physical as well as information infrastructure. These options provide that kind of safety net for farmers to be able to have a choice of who to sell, when to sell, and what's in their stock to sell.
All right. And also, let's look at technology. The world right now is transforming. Everything is digital. So how are you planning to leverage digital technology in order for you to at least move forward and be successful in this space of agriculture?
I mean, we've seen the power of technology in terms of providing opportunity to innovate, information, financial transactions. M-Pesa is one of those innovations that we've seen the power of providing a bank for a smallholder farmer. We want to leverage on this, the power of this technology. It has shown that we can reach many people, millions of people, with a touch of a button using technology. So it's really key that we use it in a way that we transfer information to the farmer and vice versa for the farmer to be able to access markets, prices, etc. So the existing infrastructure, we need to build on that.
So basically, essentially, farmers also need to be tech savvy. They need to get into this system so that they may get the services that they need.
Absolutely.
All right. And also now, even as we coming up to an end and wrapping up in this conversation, going forward, we as a country, how do we make sure that this repeated phenomenon of food security, food insecure, malnutrition, drought is affecting the production of farm inputs, and what is it that we need to do? The one thing from where you sit that you think we as Kenyans and also largely farmers can just make sure that at least we work on in order for us to be successful?
It's really difficult to say that there's just one thing. I think it's a combination of things.
Yes.
Things like climate change are not going away. This is something we face on a daily basis. The weather will change. We need to work on an integrated way of working within the agriculture sector, transforming our food system, ensuring that it takes in the different sectors, whether it's economy, education, technology, infrastructure. That way it cushions us as a country from the different shocks that we'll get, whether market or climate. It encourages farmers to produce more because they know they've got an outlet. It promotes the issue of the youth in employment because youth are able to see an opportunity, they see themselves within the sector. So if you ask me one thing, I would say integrated approaches, but we need to break this down and actually see it for what it really is.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on Business Today. That is Hassan Ng'ombe, who is a resilience officer from AGRA, speaking to us about climate change and what we need to do in order to cushion ourselves when we have such disasters, drought, also floods coming. All right, we are going to go for a short break, but don't go too far. When we come back, you need to learn about making sure that you invest in, when you want to invest in a home, what do you need to look at? What are some of the requirements that you need? Are you even eligible to own a home? We're going to be speaking to Safaricom Investment Corporation, and we are going to be looking at what are some of the ways in which you can make sure that at least you as an individual get to own a home. So don't go too far. We'll be back with more.